Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasam. All right, friends. So, to discuss how to mark this occasion of the new moon, us getting together, sitting here. And so the other night was New Year's Eve, and we were presented with an opportunity to make a decision. One, we could just go to bed, or two, we could say, oh, this is a particularly useful opportunity to do something special. And then what is special? So it took actually a little bit of doing to, I mean, this year in particular, when it's not the kind of year that you can just go out into big public spaces that easily, it took a little bit of effort to veer away from just going to bed, just letting it be any other day. But that effort I felt was good. Wanted to bring in this new space and a new group of friends nearby, actually old friends, but newly grouped. Wanted to mark the occasion by just getting together and offering to chant together. And so across the Buddhist world, chanting is a very normal thing. And you say it's probably the most normal thing. It is even more normal than meditation. So in the West, we put a lot of stock in formal sitting meditation, but in the East, in traditional Buddhist countries, you would chant first. And it's only if you were really devoted to the practice would you get around to sitting meditation after. So there are all sorts of devotional chants. And each of the three main lineages, the Theravada, the Mahayana, the Vajrayana, have their own particular sets of chantings. And it can be quite daunting. There's hundreds maybe of different things that can be chanted, or you can just pick any sutta from the Pali Canon and just chant that. But nevertheless, there are some basics that keep getting brought to the top of the list. And one of these is the homage to the triple gem, which I think we, kudos to Tahn Santi, actually knew the name of it. We call it Namo Kara Pata. And it's a simple set of 3 verses. Oh, no, wait. Yeah, the Arahang, or the Itipiso. Yeah, the Itipiso is what we call a set of verses to a homage to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And these actually, in the Pali Canon, they're given a little bit of a context in whenever people were talking about the Buddha, Dhamma, or Sangha amongst each other. The Pali Canon just kind of glosses it over and says, this is what they were saying. And so if anybody has been to a Theravada monastery, you've certainly heard the Itipiso Bhagava Arahang Sama Sambuddho Vija Charana Sampano Sugato Lokaravidu Purisadhamma Sarati Sata Deva Manusanam Buddho Bhagavati. And it's basically saying, he, the Blessed One, well gone, knower of the worlds. Yeah, this is, it was said to be the Buddha's good reputation. So people would start spreading around. There is this Arahant, there is this enlightened being out there, and he's nearby. Let's go visit him. So after the Buddha's passing, they were still saying it, but it was a little different. They weren't saying, "Oh, he's right around the corner. Let's go visit him," or "He's in the next town. Let's go visit him." They were saying there was this fully enlightened being, and we are so blessed that society remembers that such a person did actually walk on this earth, and there are holy sites set up, and there are statues made to recollect that being. And you maybe heard the homage to the Dhamma, Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo. The Buddha's teaching is well explained. Akaliko Sanditiko Akaliko Ehipasko Opanayiko. It is apparent here and now, visible, timeless, and in encouraging investigation. Yeah. It is a teaching which is opanayiko. It's successive. It leads onwards. You understand something, and that kind of shines a light on the next direction to go. You're not left, just floundering. Like it kind of draws you in. And ehipasuko, it's the come and see Dhamma. And so this is what people have been saying about the Dhamma. They're like, maybe they know there is a Buddhist teaching, but when you meet somebody who has actually read the suttas or been to Dhamma talks, they have a whole different way of and bonus points. I can't see who actually posted that. Was that Rupa? Thank you. Yeah, that's it exactly. So this is what people would be saying when they actually had encountered that Dhamma, when it wasn't just in theory. Oh yeah. There's Buddhist teachings. They teach about suffering. They're kind of grim, really. But once they had actually heard the Buddhist teaching, they'd be like, "This is really good stuff. This deals with stuff that's happening right now, and it's universal and it's timeless." And it creates this feeling of incredible relevance. It's in fact speaking with truths, and this is what they'd say about the Dhamma. And then the Sangha, is supatipano bhagavato savaka sangho, ujupatipano nyaya patipano samichi patipano. So the community of the Buddha's disciples have practiced well. They have practiced diligently. They have practiced insightfully. They have practiced with integrity. And it goes on to say they are the four pairs, that is 8 kinds of enlightened beings, and that these people are worthy of gifts and hospitality and homage. And this is what people would say when they had come in contact with the Buddha's sincere disciples, with those people who had achieved successive understanding in the Buddhist teaching, who had actually put it to the test and put in the requisite work and had let go of the things that needed to be let go of, and had reached a level of enlightenment. And there's this kind of you say fame, is going around. These people are not just paying lip service to an idea. They're not just worshiping just on Sunday. It's like these people have actually accomplished something. They have attained something. These they're not just saying do good stuff. Like, they do good stuff all the time. They can't be stopped from doing good stuff. They're people with faith, people with energy, with mindfulness, wisdom, people with concentration. And that's the reputation that was spreading about the Sangha, not just the monastic Sangha, not just the monks and the bhikkhunis, but the lay Sangha as well, those disciples who had drawn close. And so this simple chant collection of chants is I've always thought of it as more than simply just a devotional chant, but though it is a powerful devotional chant, like we did this in a round for about an hour, and we actually got through 30 of them. I think we were aiming for 108, and then we were content to settle for half of that, 54. But we only got through 30 in an hour. But even the fact that we tried, it was wonderful. And you find that the mind is not necessarily fully present at 11 o'clock at night, going round and round through the same chant. But nevertheless, it would wake up on and on and on through that practice. It would catch a particular verse or particular word or particular part of this chant, and it'd be like, yeah, we're chanting about the Buddha. Oh yeah, we're talking that the Dhamma is a kaliko. Or it'd be like, yes, the community of disciples, they really practice. Oh, like us, they mean it. And this is what it's like to practice good karma of speech, to pay homage, to pay respects, to praise that which is in fact worthy of praise, that which does in fact have good qualities is good karma. And whether or not we realize we're doing it, even if it's become habitual, even if we don't totally understand the language, we nevertheless, we have this sense of, I'm not doing anything blameworthy here. And maybe over time we start to realize this is really good. Some of the best times I've had have been the simple, peaceful, wonderful, relaxed times in a monastery somewhere, just chanting, being part of a schedule, in a retreat center. I had no other duties. I could just give my time and my mindfulness to this. And so it's had me thinking about this lately, and the aspect of faith. So what came up a few weeks ago was a friend had mentioned, just kind of put it out there to a group of Dhamma practitioners. It's like, they knew it's a great idea to give an offering on your birthday. And so they went and they did it. They went to the monks and they gave an offering. And then they were reflecting on it afterwards. And you're like, was I supposed to feel something? Was I supposed to was there supposed to be like joy or energy and maybe some bright lights? Were devas supposed to like sprinkle flower petals or something? Because that didn't happen. And I'm wondering if I did something wrong. And it's interesting because I think many of us have had that experience at different times. Like we're going through the motions, but then when we really check in with ourselves and we're like, am I really getting something out of this? And it's funny because in retrospect, it's a very modern, a very Western, a very materialist kind of way of approaching it. And it's like, is this worth my time? Am I getting the payoff, or is this diminishing returns? I've given so much homage to the Triple Gem already, and now I'm just trying to get that last little percent that's maybe not worth it. And it's okay. So the reality is, for somebody who's grown up in a Buddhist culture, they have been surrounded by Buddhism, by the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha every waking day of their life. And they've put food in the monks' bowls, and they've spent their weekends at the temple with all the little kids running around and having big alms givings and stuff. Then there is no doubt in their minds that the Triple Gem is a beautiful thing, that it's interwoven with all of the best parts of human society. When we get together to abide by the precepts and to share and to encourage each other, that's the best it gets. Yeah, it's not war, it's not disease, it's not famine. It's community, it's Sangha. But that's what it's like if we have had a ton of experiences in that environment. then there's no doubt, when we chant homage to the triple gem, it's taking us back to when we were 4 years old and we were sitting next to our grandparents and we were chanting the very same thing. We were learning to chant the very same thing, not from reading it from a book, but by just listening to what everybody else was doing and kind of mumbling along until through repetition, we were mumbling kind of along with the rhythm. And then finally we were getting the words. Yeah. It would take us back to all those wholesome associations. But as people in the West, as people in modern culture, we maybe don't have those associations. So we've been told, go visit the monastery, go visit the monks, go to a Dhamma talk, give alms. Even if you don't have monks nearby, get together, have a meditation group, do good things. And you'll be able to feel it. You'll be able to feel that joy. And I think many of us have those instances where we feel that joy. But then there are times when we don't. We start to wonder, is there something wrong with me? And so I wanted to just reflect. I've been thinking about it. And to some degree, it involves understanding right effort. So right effort in the Buddhist teaching is said to be fourfold. And that is the effort to abandon unskillful, wholesome qualities which have arisen, the effort to prevent future unskillful qualities which might arise, the effort to develop unarisen, wholesome qualities which you'd like to have arise in the future, and the effort to preserve those wholesome qualities which have arisen. And these are the four right efforts. And so I've often thought of this as a progression. Many of us, and this might just be me, but it seems like many of us start and it's kind of weighted. In the beginning, we're doing a lot more of the first two. Our mind is kind of a mess, and we've grown up in a culture that didn't quite know where happiness was to be found. And it said happiness is to be found in food, and happiness is to be found in music, and happiness is to be found in possessions, and happiness is to be found in the perfect partner. And so we've done a lot of stuff in those areas. And then we find Buddhism and we're like, this seems to be talking about what's really going on. And that stuff, no matter how much of it I got, it always slipped through my fingers. It was impermanent. Even if it was nice, it didn't last. It's an endless pursuit. It's an endless wheel. But this Dhamma is talking about something which is not endless, which has a goal, which has a destination. And so we arrive at the practice, and we're not necessarily in every aspect of our practice are we going to be getting that feeling of, yes, this is wonderful, this is great, this is fantastic, because that would be based on a wholesome mind state. Sometimes what we're recognizing is, I really want to be watching TV. I really want to be eating a pizza. I really want to be sleeping right now. I really want to be doing anything else. My legs hurt. That's the thought that's going through our head. But we're saying, I see that, but I've given into that in the past, and it hasn't satisfied me. I've just woken up the next morning and realized that nothing came from that. It's a waste of time. Things haven't gotten any better because of doing it that way. So I'm gonna sit, I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna contemplate, I'm gonna meditate, I'm gonna practice, I'm gonna take precepts, I'm gonna restrain unwholesome impulses. And that's what we're doing. So there is an unwholesome state, and accompanying unwholesome states is usually what we call dukkha. It's unpleasant. When we're craving something and we're not getting it, that is an unpleasant sensation. It's the most basic kind of unpleasant experience, but it's easy to miss. We're generating the dukkha based on the craving. It's not the fact that we don't have the object, it's a craving for the object which is creating the dukkha. Now that sense of working with our arisen unwholesome qualities, or even, we've reached a kind of quiet spot where we're not experiencing a lot of greed, hatred, and delusion at this moment, but we're on edge. Any moment. Oh, if somebody reminds me what's on Netflix tonight, then I'm going to be thinking about that through the whole Dhamma talk. Or I'll sit, but if my back starts to hurt, I'm just going to be squirming all over the place. We might be having to keep vigilance for future unwholesome qualities, which might be ready to pop up at any moment. And so because of that, we're not able to totally relax. We notice there's still the potential to slip. So because of that, we're not getting that experience of joy, that experience of light and release and faith, what we've come to associate with faith. So there's this image in our culture of faith as this bright, beautiful, joyful quality. And that is, in fact, what we call faith as a power, faith as a quality built into our personality. It's when faith is developed that we've got energy and mindfulness and joy and tranquility associated with our faith. That's when it's really developed. But just because we don't have that experience of joy, it doesn't mean that we don't have faith. It doesn't mean that we are doing anything wrong. This is what it is to train in something. This is what it is to develop something. Namely, that we have to start where we are. And if we notice, we're sitting down and we're trying to do the good thing, but we don't have a lot of joyful mind states yet. We have a lot of sore knees and wandering mind. Doesn't mean we're doing anything wrong. This is, in fact, a quality of faith, that we are sticking with it, that we're cleaning shop. We're basically doing the chores, which at some point leads to things being clean, things being well-maintained, things being orderly, which then gives us the room to have those bright mind states. It gives the room when there isn't the clutter of unwholesome mind states. Suddenly we find that we can start having wholesome ones. We just relax, we'd be happy, we'd be joyful. We appreciate the things going on around us. We see the Buddha image and we're like, wow, that's great. That's really great. And yeah, it's just simple. So the chanting to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha is people talking to people about these very things. Hey, there are these things which help bring about faith. And just because you hear it or just because you chant it doesn't mean you're suddenly going to be filled with faith in these things. But these things are worthy of faith. There have been enlightened beings. There is a truth, a worthy truth that can be known and pursued. And there are good people in the world. There are people who are diligent and practicing to be better, people that you can rely on. And look to for support and even for inspiration. And so these knowledges are things that we can return to over and over again. And these are what we call the three refuges. So whereas, we work and we try and develop things, the idea of refuge is what happens when we're backed into a corner? What happens when times are tough? What do we fall back on? And it's notable when you see somebody who's really developed that sense of faith and who's really put in the effort. This is what their mind falls back on. They'll try to hold on to their schedule, to their diet, to their house and their money. But when the bottom falls out and everything kind of hits the fan, they say, well, I guess I can be a monk. I mean, that's everything else is broke. They're like, well, at least I have my practice still, or at least I have my mindfulness still. That can't be taken away from me. They find a peace and a security in the fact that at least I'm still a good person. All of this bad stuff has happened to me, but maybe I deserved it at some point. Who knows? All I know is that I can suffer over this, or I can accept it and try to move on. And that is what that is more than like a bright, oh, kind of mind state. That is the reality of refuge. It's what is the bottom state? What is that sort of fallback for the mind when times are tough? And if you find that the mind is falling back on, well, I still practice. There is suffering. This is what I've been suffering. This is what I've been practicing for. There is suffering. That's what's going on right now. I know it, and I can know it because this is a reality. We'd be like, well, at least I still have Dhamma friends. They'll be able to understand what I'm going through, and they'll be able to give me reflections, and they'll encourage me. That is refuge. That is the result of faith, and putting our faith in those things which are worthy of faith. So this is just something I've been considering. And when we look at those things that are chanted, that have been chanted over and over again for the last 2,500 years, this is the quality we're often seeing, is that it's some reflection of not just things that we want. I mean, we have plenty of chants that talk about dhammas to be cultivated, or may you be free of all disease, may you get all blessings. We have plenty of chants like that. But the simplest ones are just like, there is Buddha, there is Dhamma, there is Sangha. And just recollecting that, just reminding ourselves of that is the cultivation of faith, and is the result of faith that we think to do that after all of this time. And that's at its most basic form, that is wholesome verbal karma. Even if we don't get this great sense of reward, we can look back and say, there's nothing blameworthy about praising the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. If we were to spend our whole life doing that chanting, we would have spent our whole life not doing anything unwholesome, unskillful. It would be okay. Yeah. But the reality is, most of the time we could be happy. Because if we had given into the baser impulses, we had just, pitched it in, we had just given up, we had just, gone to bed, or eaten pizza, or turned up the music to 11, then we would have gotten through a day. We would have gotten through maybe a hard time. We would have dealt with whatever was going on in our head at that time. But the next day, we wouldn't have developed any skillful responses to the situation that caused us to need to do that. Whereas any day where we sit and we reflect, where we meditate, where we try, where we practice those right efforts, that's a day after which we can say, well, at least I put in some conditions. I can't guarantee those are going to ripen today, but they'll ripen someday. And over time, that becomes the thing that we have the most faith in. It's like, I don't know the future, but I know what I can do right now. And so I'm going to plant some seeds, and I'm going to just keep planting seeds day after day after day after day. I'm going to plant these seeds, because who knows when the harvest will be. The only thing I can know for sure, I get to be the one who gets the harvest. Yeah, sooner or later. And so that's what we do. And that is faith. That's the practice of faith. That is the fruit of faith. All right. So I offer this reflection for you tonight. I hope this has stirred up something, maybe a little bit of faith, a little bit of joy, a little bit of Well, anything wholesome? So I offer this for your reflection.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.